Hello, everybody. It's Janae Payne again, and it's our another discussion. And our discussion is on our research presentation and how what our perspective for our peers to understand what we are going to be talking about or presenting or writing to the professor. And I'm very excited to do this. My research is going to be, well, it is on George Washington and his impact. So the title I have is George Washington's Impact of 1789 through 1797. So with that, you're just like, oh my God, has this been written before? What is she bringing out? What is she going to do with this? Well, I'm going to bring it out the best way that I can. So, with that being said in mind, my presentation again is going to be on George Washington. And the things that in my research that I've researched so far is on his technique, on leadership. Like, how did he get there? How did he build um, his empire? A lot of people use those words empire all the time. I mean, he had a lot of people backing him up, and understanding him for who he was. So, with not limiting his functions as president, but knowing his association with the Revolutionary War and how, um, from childhood to the time of his death, what did he do? Um, and the impact of his vision. To be a leader, it takes a lot, and it's not everything given to you, but you have to work for to achieve and to bring out that perspective. So, in my research, I'm bringing out his path, negative and positive, on how he got to where he was as a leader. And so, with that set in mind, his compelling years, point, and what actually motivated him. Was it women, mom, dad, brothers, the association, his council, and um, and also his impactment with the Continental Congress? That is very important. And so I'm examining all those things in his organization, how he did it, and the rules that he set forth for the United States. So, and it's just emphasizing on what he did and how it's important now and back then. So, the sources that I think are relevant for right now for this discussion is called George Washington by Bernard Mayo, and he talks about and argues about how George Washington is brought up as a myth or not a myth. So was he a man or a myth? So it is so profound right now to talk about that, because there are a lot of articles and journals out there that are empowering myths of George Washington. So, with them being able to talk about him, he had to have impacted some type of way. If you're talking about me, some type of impact, my leadership did something for you to bring up myth or not myth. So that's what I want to talk about too. And then also, um, uh, source called Faith in the Presidency from George Washington to George W. Bush by Gary Smith. And he describes his military missions, like what he did. Was he on foot, horse, what he accomplished as being a leader, and his methods to um, lure his enemy in, and his tactics. So I think that's so important and authoritative of how George Washington strategized in the military, and he knew the weaknesses, and that's leadership. Like, you're not just, you might think that he was thinking of just about himself, but he wasn't. He was thinking about the whole picture. And another source is called The Life of George Washington. And it's by Aaron Bancroft, and he brings out the lessons, accomplishments, which reference his mother as the teacher that taught him his arithmetic, his education, and how he was focused and in his strengths. And that's how he endured in battle, was because of his mother. Because he didn't know too much. Um, Back then, it was, hit and miss. Like, you know, so that's what's brought up. And thank you. And that's my presentation.